Hey guys, how you doing? Today we're going to be reviewing You Season 3. Now, You is a very unique show on Netflix, and if you haven't seen it, I do recommend that you check it out. I've been a fan since the first season and was anticipating this season not that much as I thought I would after Season 2, because the way it leaves off with a sort of cliffhanger, you could call it, it wasn't a very engaging cliffhanger and seems quite cliche. Now, after episode 1, you realise that this is anything but cliche. The way it goes, trust me, this season is very unique, as the previous seasons are as well. Now, this season, we follow Joe and Love's, marriage and their child, and they're moving into their own house and trying to make their relationship work, not only for their kid, but for themselves. This is very centric around those two. Obviously, they are the main characters of the show, but it focuses on their marriage and if they're meant for each other, if they're right for each other. I don't know why I said marriage. I don't think they're married, but yeah, their relationship. But yeah, this season is very interesting. For me, I'll say it right now, I do believe this is my least favourite season. Not a bad season at all. I thought this season was great, but I found season 2 more engaging than this, and season 1 obviously is like great. So yeah, I do think this is the weakest season, but that's not to put this season down. This season is great. Now, let's get into some of the characters. Now, obviously you have Love and Joe. And in my opinion, I believe Love steals most of the scenes. I cannot lie. Love is just crazy. The actor, what she has to do for this role, she commits, because certain facial expressions, this is how you can tell she's properly committed to the role and is just a great actor in general, because some of the facial expressions she gives, you can tell that she's crazy. Whereas Joe, for me, I feel like is a more controlled character. He can control his emotions better and is a more calculating individual, whereas Love is a very impulsive and will do something, perhaps not the smartest decision, but will get something done if she feels like it. So yeah, their dynamic is great. You have this juxtaposition of Joe thinking he's good and criticizing Love for all of these things that she's doing, when he's doing equally as bad things, but he sees himself as such a protagonist of his own story that it really gives the show an interesting storyline for you to follow, because the audience is sort of rooting for a villain. And obviously we've known this. This is like what I'd say about him in season 1 and 2 and 3. But here, because he's paired up with someone that is equally as bad, if not worse, it's just, it exposes it even more and really makes you think about his head and his mindset and how he's having this argument with her about, you got to stop killing, you got to do this, do that. But he's still doing all of the same stuff he was doing in previous seasons. It's just very hypocritical. And yet the audience is still meant to root for this guy. It's just great writing. That's one thing I'll say. The writing is still fantastic. Maybe for me, there are certain plot details and cliches done here that I just wasn't a fan of. I did really like the feel of season 2. That's just a personal opinion. I think season 2 might be my favourite. I'd have to go back and watch them. I haven't watched them in a while. But yeah, I remember season 2, the feel of him being on the run sort of from his ex and finding this new city and still standing out as a weird guy. And the dynamic between the two sisters where he was staying, that little apartment lot, those two sisters that he sort of felt like he sort of needed to be protective of, especially the younger one, falling into a sort of romantic scandal with the older sister. There was a lot of elements to season 2, and I think it was because the characters were a lot more interesting. The side characters in season 2, then season 1, and then season 3. The side characters here, it just feels cheaply set up, if I'm being honest. This whole Theo character, I just didn't find that engaging. His little love thing with Love was just sort of, it was just sort of an easy plot to do. It didn't seem very complex, and for a show that is like this, I did expect something a bit better than, oh, it's the neighbour with Joe, and then his dad's trying to find out what happened to her. And then they didn't really do anything with the dad of Theo. They didn't really do anything with his character. The neighbour, he was just sort of weirdly off. And then you're like, okay, well, they're building a reason. Maybe he's already got the evidence and he's just building his case to put Joe and Love away for real, or just something. But no, he's just sort of this sad, depressed guy. And it's just, I don't know, I really thought they were building his character to do something where he just doesn't. Now, other than that, I think that the rest of the side characters are fine. They're fine. There's this one annoying character who is the most annoying character throughout any of the seasons. And she's meant to be. That's how her characters wrote. And the actor performs it to perfection, because you cannot stand this girl and her husband. Although her husband's a bit more charismatic, he's a bit more fun on the screen. But every time she was on screen, you just didn't want to watch it. And I get that was the point. I just felt like I should say that, because if you're going into this season, you need to know that you'll know when she comes on screen. You know she will just annoy you every time she's on screen. But anyway, their outcome is quite interesting. I thought it would have been the cliche, oh, they get stuck in the box, they have to kill them eventually. But no, it's different, and I do respect that. And I will say this, the finale, if this finale didn't deliver, this season could have been quite, not bad, but just average and sort of decent compared to the greatness of the previous two seasons. But the finale does something interesting, and I do appreciate that. I will go into sort of a little bit of detail, so there are spoilers here. But for the fate of Love, I really did not think they would kill her off. I did not expect that at all. They built her up as to be now one of the main characters with Joe. So I just sort of expected... for me, I was going into the finale thinking there's no way Joe and Love are going to stay together. There can't be, because it's built up and they've tried fixing it and doing these things, but ultimately you can see the tension building between the two, and they're just such strong, not egos, but they have such strong personalities and beliefs that eventually they'll clash. And they've clashed before, but they've still been holding on so tightly to what they have, because they're scared that if they break up, it's sort of like their idealistics not being true. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but what they believe they are doing and their beliefs and their morals, they believe if they break up, it's so toxic. Their relationship is so toxic, but if they split up, it's sort of like their truths and their morals being ultimately proven to be wrong. So they're both clinging on, and it all builds up to that final episode. And by the way, I forgot to mention this. The whole plot line with Joe and the librarian feels so forced, because they've had that in every single season. And I didn't feel any chemistry there. It could have just been me, but I've seen this before. That's what I thought they were going to do with the first episode with Joe and the neighbour, how they set it up last season. And I was like, please don't do this. You're just forcing it again. It just feels dumb. It feels cliche. And then it doesn't happen. But then they still do it with another character who's this librarian. And I'm like, of course, we're going back to the library, back to this sort of cliche Joe relationship that he has every season. And they needed it for the last episode, because it has that extra element of tension. But in terms of her character and Joe and her's dynamic, I didn't buy into it, because I didn't really sense a chemistry there. There wasn't build up. It's what it is it's what they did with Beck, but done so much worse with an actor that has way less chemistry with Joe. That's not on her. That is just how it is. That's just, you can't help that. But even the writing just felt repetitive, and it just gave me deja vu in a bad way, and I did not appreciate it. I thought it was quite lazy, in my opinion. But yeah, they needed her to add an extra element of tension for that finale. And the finale, I will say, the ending where she paralyzes him, because he's still on edge. As soon as they start eating, he's on edge, and you realise, well, Joe's done here. He's finished. But then I love it because they've built up how smart Joe is throughout this whole thing. Every time Love's made a stupid, impulsive decision to kill someone, Joe's getting mad at her, rightfully, because he has a kid now. It's not only him and her's relationship they're protecting, it's their kids. And I just thought they set it up early on and sprinkled it throughout the season, how much smarter, how much intellectually smarter and precise Joe is with what he does, all of the bad things he does. Not only does he deal with it in a more calm manner, but he's a lot smarter and intelligent about the way he does it. So the fact that Joe had this, he could picture Love doing what she does, which allows him to sort of heal himself before she does it. And it's great because when he suddenly gets up and he actually kills her, you feel satisfaction there. And it's a weird word for it, but you feel like he could finally make something go right for himself and get out of this toxic relationship, because that relationship was bad and he finally deals with that. Not saying he dealt with it in the right way, but in a way it was self-defense. But yeah, obviously he's not doing good things, and I hope people know that when they watch the show, because you get so dragged into supporting this guy and feeling bad for this guy, because obviously if he's presenting himself as a protagonist, we're looking at him, so we're hearing him narrate all of these things and how he feels, and it can make you feel like he's doing the right things, but obviously he's not. But in this case, there's an argument for that. It was self-defense. So yeah, I thought this finale was very well thought out, well wrote, and it could have been very, very average, easy finale. They could have done a cliffhanger, which I wouldn't mind. They haven't done that yet, really. They haven't really done that yet. So they could have done it where at the end you see like Joe leaving or something, and then you see that her body's not there, or something's moved, or you see like her leg positioned differently, like she's still alive or something like that. But yeah, she's dead. She is dead. They've made that very clear. He burnt down the house. He dealt with everything. So yeah, Love is gone, which is surprising. So yeah, I think this season is a great season. That is genuinely, like, I do believe this season is great. It's just not up to par for me, mostly down to the side characters and the lack of interest around that main storyline. It doesn't work as well for me as it does for other people. So I'm going to give You season 3 as hard, it's 8 or a 7. It's a low 8 and a very high 7. I'm going to be harsh, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Because that finale is great. The opening 2 episodes are great. And then that whole middle section with everything else going on, with all of these subplots. And Theo's character doesn't work for me that much. He's fine. He's serviceable. The dad doesn't work for me at all. This annoying couple doesn't really work for me. And there's just not much else going on. All the main focus went to that key relationship between Joe and Love. And that ultimately pays off, which is why this is still a good season. But it's just not up to par with the 2 previous seasons for me. Now, speaking of season 4, they announced that it's greenlit and it will happen. Joe's now in Paris, so I really hope they take this opportunity to use Paris. They chose Paris for a reason. I'd hope so, and I really hope they tell us why, and explore in season 4 why Joe's gone there. Paris is known as the city of love. That is a thing. Makes sense that Joe would go there. I really hope they make the most of season 4. I think season 4 could be excellent because Joe is a single man again. So Joe we can go back to season 1, but take a fresh start. And I just think that's what this show needs. So yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts of You season 3. Sorry this review is a bit late. But yeah, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.